infrastructures. In that regard, TIPS clone came as a brilliant idea and a brilliant initiative of the region. Where we were when it comes to cross-border fees, we need to be very transparent. They were the highest within the European continent. B2B, in order to, for example, send 20,000 euros from Montenegro to company in North Macedonia, it would take us 1.4% of the value of those funds. In order to send 5,000, it would take us 1.1%. I believe that although they are similarly small as Montenegro, in the case of Kosovo, things were somewhat better. According to the World Bank data, those costs would reach around 0.18, i.e. 0.38% of the value, but still we are talking about very, very high fees. In today's world, where we are faced with the fact that stable coins are breaching the interoperability across the countries, I believe that for us as regulators was, I would say, a duty and an obligation to create, I would say, an efficient cross-border instant payment scheme that would serve not solely our domestic payment system, but would have a potential for interconnectivity. In that regard, I would say that our inspirations were Nordic P27, Asian payment connectivity, and of course RT1. And in that regard, we said why we should not approach to the European Central Bank and request clone, i.e. usage of their instant payment system. Of course, at the first we were rejected. However, after, I would say, months and months, Yumni correct me, but I believe there were months of negotiation. At the end, they figured out that we should be a very, very nice pilot for potential tomorrow's expansion of TIPS to even larger markets. So here we are in June 2024, ECB approved TIPS clone deployment. In that regard, Banca d'Italia, one of the operators, overtook this task. They were the institution, in fact they are the institution who will be in charge in settlement of the transaction and the precise cloning of the TIPS. While countries one by one join. Today, there are 5 countries in the region: Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro. So in that aspect, from the structure per se, you can tell that we can already announce that on 20th of July 2026, we will be facing you can expect a new payment system, agile, cutting edge, fully copied TIPS clone, i.e. where the payments will be in real time processed in the matter of 10 seconds. So, however, our aspiration doesn't end there. In 2027, we will be layering those services by adding a regional cross-border instant feature. At the moment, negotiations are not solely relying on one leg out, but on infrastructural adjustments within the Banca d'Italia that would allow cross-border features and cross-border payments among our countries. I will not dwell too much on the benefits. I think that we are very much aware of it. In the context of Montenegro, TIPS clone and SEPA together can have the impact of 160 million euros in GDP, i.e. 2.3% of the GDP from 2024, or just to put it more bluntly, Only SEPA and TIPS clone, in the case of Montenegro, can narrow the income gap between Montenegro and average EU countries by 10 percentage points over the decade. So I believe that it speaks volumes how powerful are these two tools, and it is now up to the regulator and up to the banks to work on it and maximize its potential. I will now ask my dear colleague Ljubni to tell something about their experience when it comes to implementation of TIPS clone in Kosovo and whether you already measured the benefits.
Thank you, Zorica. I think that as a central bank, we are facing many challenges these years. And new technology is changing the way that how we can live, how we can get services, and how we are going to pay services. So it's something that we as a central banks, we need to take care and to take our measures to ensure stability, to ensure security and efficiency for all participants in the market. So due to our commitment as regional countries and due to the technology, we give it the space to the new actors in the market. We give space to the non-bank payment service providers, electronic money institutions, and other digital services. But yet, cash is still the main actor in so cash is dominating in market, and most of the digital transactions are based on the cards. But even the cards are growing every year. We see that how to say, cards are increasing, but they are facing different challenges in the market. For example, as a lack of the switching center, local switching center, or delay on settlement process, or lack of interoperability with other digital services. These are elements that we push us to think about instant payments. Instant payment as an infrastructure which will allow to process transaction, account-to-account transaction in real time. And as well to give much more interoperability with other services, digital services. So it's something that now, with the support of European Commission, as a region, we are implementing this system, and we are going to implement next year, I hope, to go live and to push other services to be developed and to start to make payment on the digital way. So it's something that.
Excellent. So in that regard, I would say that we both share the same challenges apart from the benefits that definitely we're going to reap. Not solely we, but I here want to highlight a very, very active and very demanding agenda when it comes to, I would say, technical adjustments that the banks need to endure. In that regard, I believe that similarly in Kosovo as well in Montenegro, definitely we are talking about infrastructural adjustment that should assure processing of transactions within the frame of 10 seconds, then creation of I would say, underlying messages based on SET instant scheme. Here I'm highlighting, of course, PAX 008 and PAX 002, who is a member of SEPA. They are very much familiar on them. When it comes to IBAN transition, I believe that is one very, very important part on which I will dwell a bit later. That is that in in the context of Montenegrin market will be an enormous impediment together with secure connectivity, where definitely the banks should assure connectivity according to target standards. So in that aspect, of course, changes the banks need to endure relates to, I would say, real-time liquidity monitoring, pre-funding. We are now talking about real-time transactions, and in that regard, banks need to, I would say, be ready in time. We as a central bank, I believe on the 1st of October, have sent a questionnaire to the banks where each of them some of them already returned replies, and the rest will be filling their views on their technical requirements, and based on which we'll make a strategic decision whether we are going for big bang approach, i.e. requesting from all the banks to be ready by July 2026, or we will focus on front runners and leave some space for those who are, I would say, who need a bit more time. However, we need to be very clear, those late bloomers will have a certain adverse effect when it comes to, I would say, their competitive position in the markets. In that regard, definitely when it comes to adjustments of the banks, definitely IBAN integration is the most difficult adjustment that needs to happen in the context of Montenegro. In that regard, I would like just to hear your views, whether you still have two accounts, BBAN and IBAN, or solely one account.
No, in our case, we have implemented BBAN as a identification number for the bank consumers. And after that, we just joined the country code on that, and everything was done. We have now IBAN as a standard. I think near to 15 years ago, all banks are using IBAN as a standard. Even for the local payment system, we are using IBAN now, but in previous infrastructure that we have had, we have used the BBAN as an identification number. But I just wanted to emphasize that SEPA and implementing instant payment are somehow linked as projects, because implementing, for example, technical SEPA criteria regarding standard of messages. Now this standard that we have done during the process of the SEPA can serve for us for implementing TIPS as infrastructure, because the infrastructure of the TIPS will use ISO 20 or 22 standard, and since our banks will be familiar with this standard of message, it will be much more easy for them to communicate with TIPS infrastructure. So it's
excellent. So you're in a somewhat, I would say, easier position, given that we in Montenegro still rely on infrastructure on two accounts. So indefinitely we will use a converter for this interim period. But I believe that the banks now can see that here I put November 2028 as a deadline where we definitely gonna have a full-fledged IBAN in production, given that we are very much aware of all the adjustment that needs to be done within the processes and within the bank's infrastructures in order to, I would say, to migrate to one account. When it comes to strategic outlook, I believe that I have already annotated that our general assumption is that by July 20th, our domestic payment system will migrate to TIPS clone. What we are pondering now, whether they will, whether the limits, at least in the context of Montenegro, would be at the level of around 15,000 euros, given the IML checks and fraud checks complexities related to this figure. Although I would love to wish that by that time all the banks would I would say, implement and integrate real-time fraud checks. I have to admit that this is a very, very tedious and very strenuous process for the banks, given that July 2026 is just around the corner. But I believe that all our countries are, when it comes to perspective of TIPS clone, are pursuing the idea of interoperability within the 2027. And once when we enter within the EU, hopefully Montenegro in 2028, we will have all prerequisites just to immediately migrate to the original TIPS. When it comes to the topic of overlay services, today we were talking about digitalization. We talked how about the mindset. I think that we really need to be realistic. I will give you just a few figures. We are talking about KYC, onboarding, etc. In the same vein, at least in Montenegro, we have faced the situation that out of those companies who have mobile and internet banking, bank by bank, the time span in the last 90 days, those companies, in most cases, only between 5 to 40% of those who are having the ability use digital channels to execute the payment. So we are talking about a very, very hard work ahead of us, both on the side of the banks and the general public. Here as well, we are talking about regulators. There is enormous work that we as a regulator that need to do in that regard. I'm a big believer that supply can create a demand, so definitely the public administration should play a very, very important role as well. And in that aspect, I believe that through the overlay services that the central banks within TIPS clone will be providing would, I would say, create additional layer of, I would say, digital channels and customer and easy customer user. When it comes to Montenegro, we are still pondering which overlay services will we be providing, but definitely verification of pay, QR code, NFC, and request to pay are a must. And with that, what we want to achieve is, I believe that I said this in my morning's key speech, that we need to assure that by the 2030, the number of electronically executed transactions is equal to those in cash. Maybe we are modest. I would like to be overly ambitious, but we as well need to live in a reality of empirical evidence. Figures that I have just said to you, out of 85% of those who have the right to have the account, only 59% of those are women who made digital payments. 64% when we are talking about males, so there is an enormous gap that needs to be filled. And in that aspect, I would say that the role of the regulator is paramount. Would you agree with me, Lunmi? What is the position of Kosovo?
Yes, of course. Having in place instant payment infrastructure, we are providing only the core infrastructure for the instant transactions. After that, it's up to the industry, to the payment service providers to provide digital services for their clients. So it's as a central banks is to put in place standards regarding QR code and other issues. So it's something that we need to discuss, I think that internally, but as the region countries, how we can implement this kind of services. I think that having in mind that we have close cooperation between our citizens, they are moving every week and during the summertime, and we need to have services which are much more interoperable between our countries. So having in place one common infrastructure for all countries will be very good, very good for us, because even it will enable services between our countries. It as well help us to integrate our infrastructure with EU infrastructure, such as European Payment Initiative, such as wallet, digital wallet application there. So it's something that if we deal together to have in place one central infrastructure for this kind of services, we will help our community and our businesses. So it's something that the role of central bank in this part is very, very important. So I don't know. We need to prepare our legal framework for the instant payment infrastructure, to have a rule book, and as well to manage the risk regarding fraud and other security risks. So it's something that the central bank is having here a big role. So I think that with the regional cooperation and with the support of EU, we as the central banks can ensure a transposition of payment services in our country to the instant and interoperable services. So it's something that will bring benefits to our clients and to our businesses.
Excellent. So to sum it up, I believe that we are really the testimony how the region can work together in order to create and to be the part of pan-European infrastructures. We will still potentially daydream, but maybe that dream can become a reality, that even overlay services can become interoperable in our region. So we are as well pondering the idea of having the same vendor for the whole region. But I believe that for both of our central banks, when it comes to payment services, we can say that with payment services, as with Alice in the Wonderland, you need to do all the running that you can do in order to stay in the same place. So on our end, I believe that both of our banks are not as fast as Usain Bolt, but that we are really doing our best to assure to the citizens sufficient payment system, which is at the very end in the core of our mandates. Thank you.
Thank you, Zorica and Lumni. Our partner, MasterCard, is at the forefront of modern payment technologies, and they have helped us arrange this meaningful discussion ahead of us about global trends in payments to the local level here in the beautiful Porto, Montenegro. And who better to moderate the discussion of this fine group of gentlemen without any special favoritism than Sasha Škrgić, Director of Cards at the ADICO Group. Sasha helps local... Yes, okay, thank you. Sasha, just a short introduction. Sasha helps local ADICO members within the European Union and outside of it to adapt to the new technologies and regulations, helping them better respond to customer expectations. I hope I'm right. Sasha, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, in the backstage, we were wondering how many of you will come after the lunch. So we can say that's more than we expected. So thank you very much. You decided to invest 35 minutes to be here rather than to sit or stand or, have coffee outside on this nice weather. When I was thinking, how I'm going to make introduction for today's speech, I have to say that after I heard so many interesting stuff today, that I didn't change my mind. So the most of us are coming from financial industry. There are, in this room, there are vendors who support us in financial industry or others who are more or less also connected to financial industry. And it was mentioned today, trust is our currency, and we should keep that currency. So firstly, I would like to say many thanks to Ivica, to Logate, because he trusted and he still trusts to us not just me, but also for my panelists, that we are going to make this panelist session in a good way. So Ivica, thank you very much. You are a brave man. I hope that we will prove that you did a good choice. Also, what I would like to say, many thanks to MasterCard, Olga, if you are still here. Many thanks, because you trusted 2 years ago in this concept, even when it was still just on the paper. You trusted last year, and you still trust this year. So I think that you will stay trustable partner, which we appreciate. And this part is not sponsored by Logate, so it's from the heart. Now I would like to invite my panelists. I think that there is no need to introduce them very deeply. All of you are quite familiar with them. I know some of them for years, even for decades. I would not mention who. But those guys have been proved as somebody who started from very basic level, specialist, expert. Now they are managers. They handled very important projects in the past, so migration to chip, to contactless, introduction Google Pay and Apple Pay, and now thinking about what is the next stage. So please, I will now switch to native language. So for those who are not native speakers, please look for a headset. Miloš Miketić. Nikola Milović. Bojan Burić. I Luka Uskoković. Rekli su nam da se moramo rukovati, iako smo se danas družili cijeli dan, ali protokol se mora ispoštivati. Ok, dobrodošli.
Hvala.
Kada sam razmišljao kako započeti današnji razgovor, današnji panel, mislio sam da je najbolje da krenemo od nekih činjenica. A to je da vidimo gdje smo mi danas. Obično paneli krenu, odmah idemo u neku budućnost, ali ajmo prvo da vidimo gdje smo danas sa paymentom. Statistika kaže u EU, podaci ECB-a, danas je 52% još uvijek plaćanja u EU sa cashom. Prije 3 godine bilo je 59%. Da se ne vraćamo predaleko u prošlost, bilo je znatno više. Šta je uvjetovalo tome svemu? Dakle, imali smo razne inovacije kroz vrijeme, unazad 20 godina, i svaka od njih je donosila nešto novo. Omogućila je da se što više koristi cashless instrumenti. I sad tu dolazimo do pitanja, a koja je danas uloga inovacije u paymentu? Da li je ona ista kao i unazad 20 godina? Da li se ona nešto mijenja? Šta možemo očekivati u budućnosti? Koliko je ona važna da taj dio cashlessa povećamo? U tom cashlessu još uvijek najveću ulogu ima kartično i taj dio se isto mijenja. Danas je 39% kartičnog, u odnosu prije 3 godine bilo je 34%. Dakle, vidimo da taj dio kartičnog jede cash, ali gdje smo danas sa inovacijama? Možda Bojan ti?
Rekao bih da tehnologija oblikuje inovacije plaćanja. Prije možda nekoliko desetina godina imali smo izrazito dominantno gotovinsko plaćanje. To si i sam rekao u podacima, se ta skala vremenom smanjuje. Razvojem tehnologije, prvo uvođenje kartice, pa onda imamo internet, personalni računari i mobilni telefon. Sve je to prouzrokovalo nekakve promjene u tom tehnološkom smislu. Čak i sama platna kartica doživjela nekoliko promjena ako gledamo iz ugla tehnologije. Sjećamo se prvih onih embosiranih ili reljefnih kartica koje su morale na ident print da se provlače sa indigo priznanicom, pa se nosilo u banku da bi mogle biti dalje procesuirane. Imali smo magnetnu traku koja je vremenom koja je vremenom i ona otišla u prošlost, Pa čip, sad tu između čipa i beskontaktnog plaćanja imamo smartfon koji se desio i koji je negdje prouzrokovao sve ove promjene. Imamo prelaz beskontaktno plaćanje na samoj kartici, a danas imamo i digitalne novčanike koji su sastavni dio svakoga telefona i koji su značajno ubrzale plaćanje.
Nikola, koliko je beskontaktno plaćanje s karticom pomoglo za adaptaciju Google Pay i Apple Pay-a? Kao isto jedna vrsta beskontaktnog plaćanja.
1 milion, 2 miliona, što bi rekao Warren Buffett. Ajde prvo, ako mi dozvoliš, Saša, ja bih da pozdravim, da se zahvalim organizatoru konferencije, Ivice i ekipa Jovani, stvarno pravite sjajan posao, sve čestitke. Iako je ovo tek 3. konferencija, na prvoj ste konferenciji već podigli standard dosta visoko i ja sam čak morao malo, gledajući koja je tema i kakvi su sve sagovornici bili prije mene, malo još da ostanem jedno pola sata sam, da prođem još, da vidim temu i što bi imao eventualno nešto korisno da kažem. Tako da vam čestitam, sjajan posao radite i samo nastavite tako. Što se tiče pogleda našeg, ajde, neko kao ko je 19 godina i duže u hipotekarnoj banci i kroz neko lično iskustvo i sa timom sa kojim radimo, vidimo da sve ima neku genezu, jeli, što je geneza zrelija ili starija, mi imamo lakše uvođenje nekih novih proizvoda. Ne znam, od prve te contactless kartice, pominjao je Bojan sve te ranije izazove ili načine kako je sve to funkcionisalo. Jednostavno uspijevamo i mogu bih reći da smo relativno i dobro tržište što se tiče primjene tih novih tehnologija u kartičnim plaćanjima, voletima i svemu tome. Mi smo vrlo ponosni da imamo možda i dominantno učešće u tržištu što se tiče voleta, ali to cijenim da je posljedica ponovo nekog decenijskog rada kao nekog od banaka koja je imala uvijek taj neki prvi nastup ili inovativan pristup u tim segmentima i kroz neke NFC issuer volete i kroz neke stikere i sve je to vremenom akviziralo neke digital friendly klijente da kasnije upliv ili lansiranje svih nekih inventivnijih ili novih digitalnih proizvoda bude lakše primljeno. Tako da mislim da imamo jedno zrelo tržište, tu su zahvale naravno i kartične šeme, posebno Mastercard, mi sa njima imamo odličnu komunikaciju i podrška su i u procesima i u lansiranju mnogih proizvoda i jačanju dosta svih tih stvari, tako da mislim da smo kao tržište, kad uporedimo i region i neke možda i razvijenije zemlje, u tom dijelu dosta napredni. Ostaje sad ovaj drugi dio što se tiče platnog sistema. Evo, svjedoci smo svi ili smo manje više vodili projekte koji se tiču SEPE i drugih integracija u evropski platni sistem, tu i čestitam i svim kolegama i Centralnoj banci što smo dali svi jedno ubrzanje i imali veću konsolidaciju da se integrišemo što brže u takve sisteme. I znamo svi kuda to vodi, da je budućnost instanti, 24/7 plaćanja i to je sa druge strane meni nekom ko je odgovoran i za infrastrukturu ili sigurnost pouzdanog sistema, to otvara neke druge također izazove, ali imamo rješenje za sve i idemo dalje.
Hvala Nikola. Bojan je spomenuo jednu interesantnu činjenicu, a to je da, Miloš je rekao da nismo toliko stari, ali ok, do prije 20 godina, nešto više od 20 godina, ono plaćanje karticom je bilo na zip-zap mašinu, ono imprinter. Tada, ko je plaćao s karticom, to je bio, ajmo reći, proces koji je trajao. Dakle, prodavač je trebao uzeti karticu, izvući onaj imprinter, provući, zvati autorizaciju, zauzeta autorizacija, zove ponovo, iza je red, ljudi su nervozni. Dakle, plaćanje karticom je bilo poprilično nezgodno i ljudi su plaćali gotovinom. Danas ko plaća gotovinom, on izaziva frustraciju, zato što treba dati gotovinu, pa sitni novac, pa ovo, pa ono, pa traje, a s druge strane imamo tap and go s mobitelom danas, brzo i jednostavno. Miloš, koliko misliš da je samo mobilno bankarstvo kao tako pomoglo da Google Pay i Apple Pay kao digital walleti se brzo implementiraju od strane i prihvate od strane korisnika?
Pa da smo ostali na staroj Nokiji, ne bi imali da pričamo o čemu danas, tako da definitivno smart telefoni su značajno doprinijeli stvari i omogućavaju sve ovo što danas živimo. Iz njih su se rodili pametni satovi i tako dalje. Tako da upravo to, i dobar si uvod, Saša, dao, da kako je izgledao proces nekad. U principu, ja često u tim našim diskusijama, iako sam ovdje u društvu digitalnih eksperata, pa nekako više vas koristim za inspiraciju i za neke sutra možda strateške odluke u dijelu usmjeravanja i digitalizacije institucije u kojoj radim. I kad imamo te diskusije, ja volim da kažem, sve može da se digitalizuje. Bukvalno sve. Sad ako imate loš proces, pa ga još i digitalizujete, napravili ste ono savršenu oluju, katastrofu opštu, jer u digitalnom svijetu, ako nije jednostavno i ako nije glatko, prosto ne može da zaživi. I upravo se to dešava sa voletima. Voleti su pojednostavili i nerijetko mi se desi da kad plaćam voletom na kasi, neki iznos sad, recimo preko 40 eura, mislim da je ona granica za PIN, i sad ako je 50 eura, 100 eura, nebitno je, i sad ova prodavačica je samo PIN da unesete, rekao ne treba PIN, kao, ali iznos, rekao ne treba PIN, i onda ono krene onaj slip da izlazi i jednostavno zbunjena, ne zna o čemu se radi. I hoću da kažem kako se polako i mi edukujemo, ali i kako se usvajaju rješenja koja su mnogo jednostavnija. Telefon, sat, ko je tokenizovao karticu, pa ja ne znam sad kad je vadi, ekstremno rijetko, kad zaboravi telefon, pretpostavljam. I to je nešto što je definitivno pomoglo razvoju digitalnih plaćanja i to je nešto što će da pogura te stvari dalje u tom pravcu.
Hvala, Miloš. Luka, ti imaš sad veliko iskustvo isto iz primjene ove SEPA-e, no međutim put do SEPA-e je bio dugotrajan i još uvijek postoji fragmentacija u tim, ajmo reći, putevima koji koriste se za plaćanje. I kod kartičnih šema, ajmo reći, to se više već harmoniziralo, dosta djeluju sinhronizirano. No što je s ovim drugim plaćanjem?
Tako je, Saša.
Gdje smo tu?
Upravo se, za nama je jedna onako ozbiljna integracija i polako uvođenje novih platnih šema. Mi smo do prije pola godine pričali o samo dva sistema, domaći i INO. Mi danas već imamo u INO platnom prometu od SWIFT-a, od SEPA-e do modernizacije domaćeg platnog prometa. Kod SEPA smo trenutno na samo jednoj šemi od druge dvije jednako moćne, SDD i SEPA Credit Instant. Ovamo smo iza ćoška maltene je TIPS. Dakle, imamo očigledno u narednom periodu, tačno je, dobro se primijeti, imat ćemo problem interoperabilnosti između svih tih platnih sistema. Oni moraju sinhronizovano da djeluju i neće biti samo izazov primijeniti platnu šemu, već i nekako uvezati platne šeme, a naravno pogotovo sve naslonice i na kartično poslovanje. Imamo jako brza plaćanja, dakle sa SEPom smo već došli na gotovo blizu real time, na 6 puta dnevno, a u instantu, sa targetovim instant payment sistemom smo u real time u 24/7. STP mod, state to processing, više nije pitanje. Dakle, mi moramo da oslobodimo manualni repetitivni rad bilo koje vrste u tom segmentu i upravo mislim da to će biti jedan od najvećih izazova da fragmentirane platne sisteme u narednom periodu orkestriramo, odnosno povežemo. Mišljenja sam da nam upravo AI tu može pomoći, da neće biti ni opcija nego nužnost, da više ne treba ni banka ni klijent da odlučuju o ruti plaćanja, već da upravo to treba da rade agenti i to će tako i biti. Tako da u odnosu na postojeće stanje, kompletan sistem koji je prilično fragmentiran, dalje treba alajnovati sa EU sistemom. Mi jesmo ušli u SEPA, SEPA je samo jedna šema, jedan kanal ka EU. Mi moramo da se prilagodimo i pravilima Evropske ekonomske unije, da izjednačimo zaista FIE sa kompletnim svim zemljama EU sistema, tako da nas čeka još jako mnogo posla. Pretpostavljam da na uvodnom čatu je viceguvernerka lijepo dala vrlo ambiciozne rokove, mapa puta je jasna, znamo što radimo do novembra 28. godine, tako da ukratko jedan veliki izazov za transformaciju platnog sistema.
Super, hvala ti Luka. Miloš, jedno malo provokativno pitanje, ok? Luka je sad rekao imamo SEP-u, imamo Clear agendu, šta još do 28. Bojan, Nikola su rekli oko digitala, kartica, Google Pay, Apple Pay, ti si isto napravio neki reflection. Dakle, imamo sve te neke stvari koje drivaju u sve veće korištenje cashless paymenta. Šta je sa onim kulturološkim nasljeđem, sa našom preferencijom keša, koja je možda dosta vezana od države do države, gdje evo, danas znamo da u Nizozemskoj 22% se samo plaća sa kešom, u Finskoj 27%, a opet s druge strane u Malti 67%. Podatak koliko je u Crnoj Gori nemam, ali sigurno nije na razini Nizozemske i Finske, gdje mogu posvjedočiti da sam još prije 10 godina kad sam putovao u Nizozemskoj naišao na masu dućana koji su rekli cards only, no cash.
Da.
Šta bi rekao, koliko ta kulturološko tu naše nasljeđe, Crna Gora, okruženje, region, prema kešu sprečava ove sve stvari kojima smo pričali?
Ja bih rekao da je kulturološki iz ugla Crne Gore više stvar izbjegavanja poreza. I da je...
Ja sam rekao provokativno malo, reci slobodno.
Možemo i to kulturološki nazvati, jer živimo u takvom društvu koje gleda, jer da neko želi samo da ispegla trošak, stavio bi kao što na zapadu često vidite kartice iznose preko 5 ili preko 10 eura. Tako da bit će da je ovo prije i ako pođemo od sebe, zašto meni keš treba, ja ga nosim samo za ne daj Bože da ga imam, ne smijem reći gdje ga trošim, ali u principu to su mjesta koja jednostavno su neka siva zona, tipa, ne znam, kafana neka u kvartu ili frizer i to su djelatnosti koje polako treba ulačiti i postoje već neke dobre prakse u okruženju i sad postoji načini kako da se i ti mali, da kažem, preduzetnici motivišu da uđu u sisteme plaćanja. Što se tiče Crne Gore, ja sam došao do jednog podatka koji vjerujem da je reprezentativan iz razloga što je podatak iz najvećeg maloprodajnog lanca, pa sam išao logikom da je negdje struktura potrošnje slična. Mi smo sad, makar u tom maloprodajnom lancu, je nekih 37-38% plaćanja izvršeno karticom. Prošle godine je bilo 34%, a tipa 5 godina unazad je bilo nekih 27-8%, što znači da imamo neki trend rasta. Naravno, malo je veća potrošnja na primorju nego u sjevernim krajevima, što je negdje bilo i za očekivati. Ali ću da kažem da taj trend postoji i dalje smo znači na nekih trećinu upotrebe kartice, ali ono što mi je također bilo interesantno, analizirao sam podatke iz naše banke, mi smo počeli u saradnji sa Mastercardom, aktivirali smo volete i Google i Apple Pay. I iako je Google lansiran prije Apple Pay-a, nama je 80% voleta na Apple, a 20% na Google. Sad, ok, bila je i neka kampanja, ali vjerujem da se možda radi i o naprednijim korisnicima, dakle tehnološki zainteresovanijima. I već smo na nekih skoro pa 20% kartica tokenizovanih. Što znači da su ljudi koji koriste kartice prepoznali komoditet koji daje voleti koji omogućava taj način plaćanja i to će da pogura, po mom skromnom mišljenju, dalju upotrebu naprednih kanala. Jer mi je bilo interesantno, skoro sam imao jedan sastanak s nekim klijentom koji ima e-commerce, koji mu služi za neke usluge u turizmu. I uglavnom su stranci ti koji su korisnici. Ja pokušao da prodam e-commerce uslugu i on kaže prestali smo da koristimo lokalna rješenja. Koji je razlog? Pa zato što smo analizirali da nam klijenti iskaču iz razloga što mora da popuni broj kartice, adresne podatke, ime, prezime i tako dalje, što se često traži na tim e-commerce platformama, koriste Stripe. Stripe je skuplji, ali možeš da platiš Apple Pay-om ili Google Pay-om. I tu je, ne znam, 2 klika i idemo dalje. I hoću kažem, znači, jednostavnost, ljudi su spremni da plate jednostavnost. Ja lično isto tako plaćam račune, iako ti daju onaj online link, ne plaćam ga preko online linka bez provizije, koristim mobilnu aplikaciju zato što mi je na 2 klika. Jer imam ili šablon sačuvan ili ima plati iz fajla, tako da jednostavnost i tehnologije, pogotovo generacijama koje dolaze, će da učinjet će neminovno da se to što više koristi. Jer su današnje generacije, ne znam, njihove pažnje 8 sekundi otprilike po tim nekim istraživanjima, znači svako plaćanje preko 8 sekundi će da nam pravi problem realno.
Miloš, super si sada ušao u jednu temu ovoga online plaćanja. Mastercard ima viziju da 2030. osigura da 100% online transakcija bude tokenizirano. Tokenizacija nije za nas ništa novo. Google Pay, Apple Pay već se odvijaju tokenizirano. Znamo prednosti tokenizacije, sigurnost, čuvaju se podaci, ostaje povjerenje, znamo kako je važno povjerenje između nas i klijenata. Šta mislite o toj Mastercardovoj viziji do 2030. Možda Nikola ti, koliko je ona ostvariva? Mislim danas mogu reći, to je informacija koju je Mastercard javno dao prije 2 tjedna, 53% već online komerca u EU je tokenizirano. Moram priznati da sam ostao malo zatečen, jako visok iznos, nisam očekivao, ali da li je to zbilja na kraju izvedivo 2030.
Pa dobar dio je vezan i za regulativu, a dio i za aktivnosti banaka.
Da.
Kod nas je regulativa za PSD2 i obaveznu strong customer autentifikaciju kad je stupila na snagu prošle godine i sve one banke koje su slijedile taj neki tehnološki standard gdje ćemo sve embedovati ili integrisati u aplikaciju i omogućiti da se za ovih, što je Miloš pominjao, 8 sekundi realizuje transakcija, a to ide ok uz korištenje biometrije i svih tih stvari. I mislim da nekako sve što više budu mlađe generacije dolazili, da će to njima biti prirodnije. Evo, sad smo komentarisali malo u backstage-u, se šalili sa momcima koji pomažu u organizaciji konferencije, koji su 2004. godište, čini mi se, treće, je li tako? Darko i Deni, pitamo ih kako oni vide budućnost plaćanja. I ovaj dečko je rekao odmah, ja sam sad bio u Kini, tamo sam plaćao dlanom tako da je tu token na neki način integrisan. Postoje ponovo drugi izazovi regulativa, integracija sa sistemima, ali kogod hoće da teži vrhunskom customer experience-u, gledat će da što više stvari integriše u jedan sistem. Što bi se ja šalio nekada sa timom iz IT-a kad smo prije par godina uvodili Apple Pay, koliko smo, ne znam, prošli testova, 100 testova koji su trebali svi da se prođu, da bi bila na 2 klika da se sve to riješi što treba i sve autentifikacije i provjere izvrše. Ja se šalio da je 1 klik, bilo bi još 100-200 testova više, ali što je jednostavnije ili bolje i customer experience, složenija arhitektura. Tako da se na vrijeme uvijek mora voditi računa i o IT arhitekturi, o donošenju odluka, investiranju, svemu tome i mečovati sa korisničkim iskustvom. Tako da to je neki put, ali zašto da ne? Mi smo možda banka, ili neću sad upoređivati sa drugim, ali imali su malo konzervativniji pristup u migraciji korisnika na novi token, jer smo prošle godine izbacili novo mobile banking i web banking rješenje, integrisali token mobilni i imamo odlično iskustvo. Bilo je malo pera dastra preko trnja do zvezda, 1 nedelju, 2, ali svi su veoma zadovoljni klijenti, 100% klijenata je migrirano koji koristi usluge banke. I sad su i mi sigurniji novci, brže se sve završava, tako da vidjeli smo da je taj nekad malo krući pristup dao vrlo efekta, jer ipak je pouzdano sigurnost transfera svojih novaca i svega nešto što je imperativ. Volimo svi inovacije, volimo šorcove i ne znam sve ono što je lijepo na oko, ali je i ta sigurnost uvijek imperativ, nešto što se podrazumijeva. Tako da, eto, miks svih tih stvari može dovesti do jedne adekvatne dinamike.
Bojan, Nikola je spomenuo ovu priču, sad isto malo je proširio oko tokenizacije. Koliko je klijentima uopće važno? Mislim, kako mi to njima možemo iskomunicirati? Ali je potrebno da im iskomuniciramo. Mislim, nekako ja tu povlačim onu priču prije 20 godina kada su se konačno kartične šeme dogovorile da uvedu PCI DSS. Svako je vukao na svoju stranu dok nisu sjele svi zajedno i rekle, ljudi, ajmo dogovoriti nešto zajedničko. I nakon toga je krenulo. Da li token ima isto takvu neku, mislim, tokenizacija, da li ima neku takvu sličnu ulogu Da li to klijentima nešto znači kad im ideš komunicirati ili je to samo da mi znamo da mi upravo stojimo na brani povjerenja?
Evo, možda da pojasnimo prvo što token u tom smislu znači publici koja nije u toj tematici. Pomenuo sam pametni telefon, sve je počelo od njega, big tech kompanije, Apple, Google, naravno ljudi se svuda kreću sa telefonom, sve manje potrebe za novčanikom, pa je tako i logika stvari nalagala da će telefon da bude novčanik. Podatke o broju kartice jednostavno ne smijete da razmjenjujete. To je podatak koji služi isključivo banci, kriptovan je i ne smije da se šalje bilo kome, uključujući i big tech kompanijama. Tako si došao na ideju tokena. Token nije ništa drugo nego neki fiktivni broj koji važi samo isključivo u tom okruženju. Ono što je bitno, korisnik ga bukvalno ne vidi. Znači, služi za banku, u pitanju je dodatna sigurnost. Pomenuo se PCI DSS, iz ugla PCI DSS-a 100% sigurno i što je jako bitno, funkcioniše besprekorno. Znači, vi ste uveli tu nekakav novi Mastercard i MNE servis koji je interoperabilan servis, to je jedna dodatna kockica u toj šemi, ali koja funkcioniše brzo. Možete vidjeti kod plaćanja da se jednostavno ne osjeća. Aktivirate telefon sad, platite svega u roku od nekoliko sekundi. Pomenuli smo token, znači trenutno se sigurno koristi najviše za Apple Pay i Google Pay, ali imamo primjenu oko 52% i kod drugih, konkretno Netflix i sličnih trgovaca. Što to govori? Znači da sve više trgovaca prelaze na sistem subscriptiona mjesečnog, a subscription nalaže da je kartica bude sačuvana, takozvani card on file, kako mi to volimo da kažemo, a to znači da ne smijete čuvati podatke o stvarnom broju kartice u sistemu, jer se dešavalo dosta proboja, konkretno na strani trgovci i slično, pa se dešavali i napadi i slično, i jednostavno se želi preduprijediti na ovaj način. Tako da rekao bih da je sve to počelo kao nekakva inovacija, a vrlo vjerojatno će biti standard do 2030. godine. Što se tiče cifra od 100% i plana Mastercarda, mislim da je ambiciozan, ali što da ne. Što da ne ipak upravi ostvari.
Čuli smo sada malo oko ovih kartičnih stvari. Luka, šta je sa EU regulatorom, sa lokalnim regulatorom izvan kartičnih šema? Imamo mi tu neke odgovore, neke izazove vezano uz sigurnost, vezano uz plaćanja?
Tako je. Danas smo dobar dio konferencije, to mi je bilo vrlo zanimljivo, je upravo pokriven bio anti-fraud temama i mislim da tek počinjemo da pričamo na tu temu i da će čak i sljedeća konferencija da bude i još aktualnija s aspekta anti-fraud rješenja. Mi smo trenutno u open bankingu, ajde kažem u PSD2, više u open paymentsu, jer to su samo inicijacija i informacija o transakciji. PSD3 regulativa ili PCR, koja će se zvati Payment Service regulativa u samom startu, već možemo da osjetimo neke naznake da će ogroman njen dio upravo biti fokusiran na bezbjednost plaćanja. Očekujemo SCRA 2.0, ne bih se iznadio da vidim i behavioralnu biometriju koja je obavezni dio regulative. Sigurno ćemo vidjeti nove API-e za kredite, štednju, investicije, tako da ako se na jednoj strani otvaramo ka TPP-evima, na drugoj strani imamo već u julu, 20. jul 26. godine TIPS, bit će vrlo hrabro biti 24/7 otvoren ka svim sistemima. U takvom jednom živom platnom ekosistemu antifraud će igra najveću ulogu. 20% transakcija, 20% platnog prometa odmah pređe na instant payment, dakle već prvog dana. A fraudovi su na instantu po svim istraživanjima i do 10 puta učestali. Tako da morat ćemo da imamo jedne scenarije, na PSD2 možemo pričati o real i non-real, gdje imamo neki hold, ali na tipsu nas zaista čeka ogroman posao da svi ćemo se mi povezati na instant šeme, ali antifraud mora da bude izuzetan, jer odluka može biti za 5 sekundi ili go ili no go, dakle nema holda. I sutra jedan engine white liste mora da doda klijenta na tu listu i da kaže, izvinite, ipak je to bio false pozitiv, Tako da očekujem da paralelno sa instant shemom radimo na moćnom anti-fraud i whitelist engineu. Tako da je odgovor na pitanje kombinacija straight-through processinga, da, želimo da budemo u real time-u, ali moramo biti vrlo, vrlo oprezni jer frusteri jako dobro znaju koji je najranjiviji dio platnog sistema i koja šema. SEPA Instant je posebna priča kad dođe, tako da tu ćemo već imati primjenu takozvanog VOP-a, Verification of Pay, koji će biti obavezan, dakle gdje na osnovu IBAN-a imena onoga koji prima sredstva zapravo možemo da kažemo da, postoji meč i da dalje izvršimo plaćanje. Tako da nas čeka jako mnogo priče i o anti-fraud rješenjima, ne samo na kartičnim šemama, već i u svim platnim sistemima koji, kažem, interaguju u real time-u sa svim ostalim sistemima. Mi imamo već prvi fintech crnogorski, sjajni, ja sam ovako imao priliku da koristim test, evo možemo i Miloša i da pomenemo i Presto Pay koji je tu samo što nije u fazi lansiranja, koliko god izgleda UX fantastično, mi moramo da kao banke budemo sigurni da smo zajedno sa kompanijom koja lansira jedan takav projekat sigurni da kvalitet plaćanja nikad ne dovedemo u pitanje.
Hvala. Ok, rekao si, imamo i tu stvari koje možemo zaštititi, jel tako, da bude sigurnost, da zadržimo povjerenje. Da li sa svime time u stvari možda narušavamo neki customer experience kod klijenata? Bojan, je bi ti rekao s ovim svim sad šta dolazi sa tim svim inovacijama, da li za prosječnog klijenta, hoće li on to moći sve apsorbirati? Koja je naša uloga u tome svemu kao banka?
Iz ugla banke customer experience je bukvalno iskustvo korisnika, iskustvo klijenta. A taj klijent može da ima više usluga, znači u sklopu banke i imamo tu takozvani ispod sve stupce usluga koji koristi. To je user experience ispod. Svi oni čine bitan segment kompletne ove priče iskustva klijenta. Što to znači u praksi? Da klijent, da su kanali u banci moraju biti međusobno povezani, da funkcionišu. Ako se započeo proces na jednom kanalu, da ga mogu završiti na drugom. Mislim, djeluje savršeno, nije jednostavno za izvesti, ali može se napraviti. Pominjali smo, evo sad imamo aktualnu priču oko digital onboardinga. Klijent može početi na webu, završiti ga na mobilu, ima kameru i dostupno mu je sve zbog liveness checka, ali imamo i perfektan primjer vezano za plaćanje. Imamo mobilnu aplikaciju gdje možete putem in-app provisioninga da digitalizujete karticu. Znači ne morate kroz wallet da slikate karticu, donesete podatke s kartice, direktno se šalje u wallet i tako funkcionišu ta dva servisa perfektno i u jednom i u drugom pravcu. Što hoću da kažem, jako je bitno da mjerimo zadovoljstvo klijenta i to minimum jedan put godišnje, da koliko god nam se učinjeli nekakvi komentari glupim, suvišnim, nisu, treba ih analizirati, jer ako nam je, klijenta može dati korisna poboljšanja, na čemu možemo da obratimo pažnju, upravo da poboljšamo korisničko iskustvo. I isto tako ono što sam pomenuo da nas se čini kao nelogično, to znači da možda nismo dovoljno obratili pažnje na njegovu digitalnu pismenost u ovoj situaciji. Znači, takvom klijentu je vjerojatno potrebna dodatna edukacija u smislu korištenja toga konkretnog kanala.
I ono čemu se sad počinje već jako pričati, danas je tijekom nekoliko panela i prezentacija, tako to je AI. U smislu plaćanja, to je u stvari agentic commerce. Znači imamo onu standardnu priču, on-site commerce, fizičke lokacije, imamo online commerce i sad imamo agentic commerce, gdje u stvari plaćanje postaje gotovo nevidljivo. Vi dajete nalog da hoćete kupiti određenu uslugu, ponudi vam se nekoliko opcija, vi odabirete, nema de facto onog klasičnog načina upucavanja brojeva, sve je tokenizirano. Koliko vidite primjenjivost toga, recimo, u Crnoj Gori? Evo, Miloš, možda ti. Koliko je to blizu ili daleko, tako nešto?
koliko je blizu, duboko vjerujem bliže nego što mislimo, iz razloga što, samo ću kratko se nadovezati na ovo što je Bojan rekao, taj UX koji je ekstremno važan, mi smo malo skloni da opterećeni nekim barijerama iz prošlosti koje smo morali da savladamo da bi došli do nekog nivoa. Ja ću navesti samo jednu gdje smo prije tačno 5 godina započeli inicijativu uvezivanja baze podataka poreske sa bankom, upravo nošeni željom i idejom da razmijenimo podatke o plati, o zaposlenju i tako dalje, da ne bi klijent morao da donosi papir, a i da bi spriječili neke frodove. 5 godina je prošlo da to sredimo. Pa smo imali evo danas diskusiju o AML zakonu i mogućnostima koje on ima, ne pominjujući da je prethodna verzija AML zakona također propisala bila digitalni potpis, ali na način da nije mogao da zaživi u praksi. Sad se to, da kažem, malo proširila definicija, pa više nije neophodan digitalni potpis sa ličnom, sa hardverom, jer ajde zamislite da ja imam i ličnu, i čitač, i laptop, i da znam i username, i password u trenutku, mislim, nenormalno je, nemoguće i nije se ni koristilo. I tek se sad stvaraju suštinski pretpostavke da mi, uslovno rečeno, odčepimo. Ali sad, s druge strane, imate tokenizaciju kartice, imate, ne znam, plaćanje putem QR koda, imate mogućnost korišćenja tehnologije na način da se video identifikujete NFC-om, lično da prinesete, ovo sve smo lično morali da zamijenimo do prije neki dan. Sad ako smo dovoljno pametni, imamo finteche koji su tu negdje generatori inovacija, prosto su fokusirani su na jednu usku oblast i onda također imaju, zanemarujemo da oni skupe jako kreativne timove, kakve dostina banaka ni nema realno, jer je deficit tih kadrova, tako da oni guraju i nas, bankare, da idemo naprijed i mi moramo da ih pratimo, usluškujemo i da negdje sarađujemo sa njima, ali hoću da kažem da sve te tehnologije, to je kao neki puzzle koji mi još nismo sastavili. Onoga momenta kad ga sastavimo, samo će da se rađaju nove ideje, jer sad više nema prepreke i sad ovo što ti, Saša, pominješ, da li mogu da zamislim kupovinu? Pa mogu jer gledam očima što se radi sa dostavama, koliko je online uznapredovao, neke ljude koji imaju te agencije i firme poznajem, to je jednostavno tipa, ne znam, Zara, kad god uđete u Deltu, red je za povrat robe, dakle svi kupuju pa vraćaju, pa to živi i što bude jednostavnije, ono će još i više i kako bude, da kažem, i primjena nekih drugih stvari, zaštite potrošača, pratila da vi možete to lako da zamijenite, to će da otvori sigurno, zašto bi išao na kraju krajeva. Ostaće onaj moment gdje možda neko ipak želi nešto da vidi i da proba prije nego što ga kupi, ako je malo komplikovan povrat, ali što se tiče svega ostalog, baš ne vidim da će lokalno stanovništvo imati neke drugačije potrebe od ljudi, ne znam, u zapadnoj Europi gdje je to već standard uveliko.
Hvala ti. S obzirom da se približavamo kraju, budući da je Nikola odradio dubinsko istraživanje tržišta, njega ću pitati kako ti vidiš, kako bi ti volio vidjeti plaćanje za 5 godina, 2030. Nadam se da će nas Ivica pozvati i prije, neće čekati 2030. da pričamo o paymentu, ali daj reci kako ti vidiš.
2030. jel?
Da.
Znači 9. oktobar 2030. Da. Porto, Montenegro, sunčan dan. Spreman se za učestvovanje na INFINTECH-u. Još jednom INFINTECH-u. Tako je. Uzimam telefon, palim digitalnog bankara koji mi govori: dobro jutro Nikola, vidim da si u Porto, Montenegru, sjajno vrijeme, još jedna konferencija. Analizirajući tvoje podatke, zaključio sam da je pravo vrijeme da investiraš u jednu sliku koju imamo u prodaji na platformi Voja Stanića. Vidim da to možeš da uradiš na jedan klik. Da li si saglasan sa tim? Ja kažem, daj mi još malo argumenata. Taj digitalni avatar iz naše mobilne aplikacije komentariše koliko sam uštedio u posljednjih par godina, jer sam malo bolje kontrolisao svoju potrošnju, analizira šta je drugo na platformi dostupno, koja je integrisana, koja nije samo ono što smo govorili jednostrana ili ono što želimo, već je onako malo interaktivna i kaže, mislim da možeš tu odluku da doneseš. I ja potvrđujem i samo čujem ping i plaćanje je obavljeno. Koristeći AI, koristeći sve podatke koje analiziramo, svi smo govorili danas o personalizaciji bankarstva, odluka, prodaji i tako dalje, to je onako jedan malo umjetnički pravac u kojem bi moglo da se krene, ali zašto ne i u stvarnosti. Treba će vremena, zavisno od svih prioriteta, aktivnosti i tako dalje, kojim će se dinamikom, strukturom, pravcu ići, ali što bi Englezi rekli, there are no excuse for wrong direction. Mi smo, čini mi se, na pravom putu već dugo godina, evo i Nikola je tu, naš novi CEO, koji će onako i čitav IT, digital i dalje u tom dijelu uz predsjednika uprave i po njegovom nadležnosti, a znajući viziju novog vlasnika našeg gospodina Kostića i AI grupe, ne sumnjam da ćemo možda i mi biti ti koji će prvi izbaciti tog digitalnog bankara ili avatara, ali evo, gledamo se 2030. i družimo se.
Nikola, hvala ti. Nemam šta za dodat. Gospodo, to je to. Hvala vam. Hvala vama.
INFINTECH. Data and AI module begins now.
Thank you, fine group of gentlemen. And if we can ask for silence for those who are leaving, we understand, but can we please keep the voices a bit lower, because we have one last time slot, and this is regarding data and AI module. I'm sure we all expected artificial intelligence to be the binding thread between all of the topics today, and that is exactly what we are witnessing. However, we wanted to take a step back and talk about data engineering. Thanks to our gold sponsor, Solvership Podgorica, a company that is building data warehouses and business intelligence systems for large enterprises, we have managed to bring the person who is behind the best-selling book, Fundamentals of Data Engineering, here on stage. He's a recovering data scientist with over 20 years in the data industry. Joe Rice is the co-author of the best-selling O'Reilly's book, Fundamentals of Data Engineering, and the instructor of the hugely popular Data Engineering Professional Certificate on Coursera, in partnership with deeplearning.ai and AWS. Joe's expertise spans data engineering, data architecture, machine learning, and more. He regularly keynotes major data conferences around the world, advises and invests in innovative data product companies, writes at Practical Data Modeling and on his personal blog, and hosts a popular podcast, The Joe Rice Show. I think it is safe to wish him a warm welcome to the stage. After that, he will be joined by Nemanja Pavicevic, Consultancy Director of Solvership Podgorica, for a 15-minute fireside chat. And thank you for staying, Joe. The floor is yours.
Thanks. So I'm guessing you're here to learn more about the state of AI. Who's heard of AI in this room? Raise your hands. Great, cool. That's what I would expect. There's an old quote by science fiction author William Gibson that says the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. I'll give you an example of what this means. So the other week, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, if you know where that is. It's very hot there. But they have driverless cars, in this case, Waymo. So with your phone, you can order a Waymo driverless cab, and it'll show up and take you to your destination. Who's actually driven and taken a ride in a driverless taxi before? It's pretty cool, actually. So it sounds scary. It drives like your 95-year-old grandfather. It goes very slow. Actually, in the Balkans, I shouldn't say that because you'll drive crazy. But during this ride, it took 8 minutes. And what I found interesting was I was on my phone using AI to write an application. And that's, I think, very interesting in itself, the fact that I could use AI, talk to it, and we could write code, and that code could be deployed. And that is what I mean when I say, or when I read that quote, the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. These capabilities are things where I think if you were to go back 5 years ago, and you were to say, I'm going to be in a driverless taxi run by AI, talking to my phone and writing code and deploying it from my phone using AI, that would seem like science fiction, right? That's already being done. And so, I'm here to talk about what I call the Great Reset that's happened across basically every industry right now. And whether you know it or not, there's a massive tsunami coming at you and your industries. What does this mean? Well, if we take a step back, before the popularization of ChatGPT, the world, it felt very same, right? Things were moving fairly fast, but the world of data, where I come from, and I come from machine learning, I guess it's now AI, it was sort of a very linear path. You could expect small improvements each year. And then I remember in 2020, actually, I was using GPT-3 had come out. Who had played with GPT-3 back in 2020? You? Right. It was cool. It wasn't that interesting. It was kind of neat. And I forgot about it. And then a few years later, ChatGPT comes out, which incidentally, it was supposed to be a science project, actually, at OpenAI. Nobody expected that to become popular. But then it became the most downloaded application in the world in record time. But up to that point, right, it was the same as it ever was. IT, data, security, all these things are considered back office IT functions. They're internal cost centers, right? They're sort of invisible work that nobody sees. And what's changing now is, AI data is becoming much more front and center with everybody. But before I get to that, one more thing that's I think to talk about is, the traditional way of looking at IT was people, process, and technology. And historically, IT initiatives had, I think, an 80% failure rate or something like that, maybe more. It's about that. It's been hovering around that number for several decades now. What's also interesting is most IT tool adoption, I believe the statistic is around, I think, 25%. That's historically been the case as well. So you're talking an 80% failure rate with 25% tool adoption. But we keep doing the same things over and over and expecting different results, which I think is very interesting. I think the big difference today is AI is being used by nearly everybody who uses AI in their own day-to-day existence, right? Yeah, there's a lot of hands up. I was talking actually backstage with just a lot of the volunteers here and asking them how they use AI, and that was interesting. Everybody's using it. Our MC, actually, she uses it all the time too, and I thought that was pretty cool. But everybody's finding a use case for it now. And this is the big difference, I would say, between the evolutions we've seen in IT in the past and the revolution that we're seeing today, which is this technology is being used by everybody. So the recent study that came out from MIT when they talked about how 95% of generative AI projects fail, for one, if you look behind the scenes, it isn't failing at all, actually. The current tools are improving. But an interesting number in that study was 60% of the people that they surveyed were bringing their own AI to the workplace because the AI their work was providing for them was not sufficient. And so you're now seeing the rise of shadow AI, which I think is very, very fascinating. You don't have to raise your hands if you're doing that at your work. That's fine. Keep it to yourself. But the fundamentals haven't changed, right? Things like security are still very, very important. I can't imagine a world where we decide that security is not important. That would be odd. Governance, is very, very important right now. But what's happening? We still have this old world of legacy practices in IT, and that's, I don't think, going anywhere, but it's going to be changed. It's going to be flipped on its head very, very soon. If you look at the rise of how AI is scaling right now, there's a curve that goes like this. If you Google AI scaling properties, what you'll find is today, 2 years ago, AI was basically at a high school level. Right now, it's getting close to, quote, PhD level. Very soon, what you're going to find is AI will be at the AI researcher level. And at this point, probably in the next 2 years, you're going to have AIs that are building new AIs. And what this means is you're talking about IQs that aren't just human-like in the hundreds. I think maybe the highest IQ is around, it's a bit above 200 for human. You're talking about IQs that will eventually be in the thousands or tens of thousands. And this is a very strange thing to comprehend because this is happening before our very eyes, and it's happening right now. And what does this mean exactly? This means, it means quite a few things. I think for the immediate future, what this means for everybody in this room is, again, the reset button has been hit on everybody. You're in the Balkans. I come from America. We're in different places, I understand. You're in finance. It's a bit more regulated, but the future isn't going to wait. I would say that this is the moment when, because everybody's back at the starting line, everyone needs to be working on very actively becoming AI native, building new workflows, rethinking your business, rethinking your practices. If you don't do this now, again, that curve I was describing to you, that curve where AI becomes smarter than everyone in this room, you either need to get on this wave, I would say, or potentially find something else to do. This wave is coming. I don't think it's going to have any respect for geographical boundaries or anything for that matter. But this is what I've been telling people. The world of today right now with AI, it means all data is useful, right? You're talking about images, text, audio, video, data in databases. All this data is going to be combined, is going to be used for new use cases. Who tried Sora 2, the new OpenAI app for video? Has anyone tried it? It's trippy. I actually don't know if you can get it here, but if you can, download Sora. It is ridiculous, the quality of the movies coming out. But all this stuff is going to pose very interesting new vectors for security, for example, right? With things you couldn't even imagine before. New use cases for business that you haven't thought of. And potentially new ways for young upstart companies to upend big incumbents in record time. This is happening in the US every day right now. I was just reading, who was it, Cursor. Has anyone used Cursor, the coding app? I know you're probably not devs. So this company, AnySphere, they're in talks to raise at a $30 billion valuation. I think they've been around for 2 years. But they've already managed to make a $500 million ARR off of their coding assistant. That shows you how fast things are going, right? I think that was one of the fastest ramp-ups of all time. But this is becoming very common where you're seeing companies that are able to hit $1 million, $2 million in revenue in less than 12 months. That should give you pause for a bit. So things are happening much more quickly. Yes, it's happening much more quickly. And I would say the advice I have right now is everyone's a beginner again, right? Everyone has the same tools. Everyone has the same capabilities in front of them. When I talk to some of the most experienced engineers in the world, people have built the systems at places like Google, at Netflix, and so forth. All of them feel like they're starting over again. So if you feel like inadequate or insecure about your ability to embrace AI, and I would say put in your 10,000 hours of mastery into AI, go ahead and do it. This will put you much farther along, both as people and as companies. But again, the reset button has been hit, and I would say the opportunity for everyone in this room is to take advantage of it and build something new. I have never seen anything like this before, and I hope that you can invent the new future, because it is coming very fast. With that, I think we'll do a fireside chat. Yep. And for fun, I'm actually going to have ChatGPT be the third participant in our fireside chat. So this will be hi. Let me get our other guest on here real quick. 1 second. Yeah. Okay.
So previous panel was taking this.
Is your mic on?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Can you hear me okay? Check.
Check. Yeah.
Check. No?
Hear me now? Well? So.
Is my mic working here? Nope.
Yep, I can hear you just fine. Sounds like your mic is definitely working on my end. So you're all good to go.
Thank you.
So we have a third party in this fireside chat
here. Yep.
Yeah. In previous panel, we were taking this dimension of current perspective towards future, and Joe approached this one from global to local. So we will try and then to make this like analogy how you see the global AI impact, how AI is shaping the world. And you mentioned it briefly in your keynote, but just wrap it up. Additionally, if you have how AI, you see, is shaping global trends over, as you are present in all conferences all over the world.
Yeah.
So you can have this like parallel between different geopolitical areas, etc. So yeah.
So what I find interesting is there is definitely a difference. I feel like I need to move my chair. I feel like there's a big difference between, there's probably, I would say, 3 major geographical modes of AI right now. There's the West in terms of the US. There's the West in terms of Western Europe, and I would say there's China, right? Shut up. So, China is obviously developing its own models right now. They got DeepSeek, they got Qwen, they got many, many others out there. Europe has Mistral. Europe also has the EU AI Act, which is very interesting in itself. That is, I think, to be determined how this ends up impacting places like the United States. And then obviously in the US, there are no AI regulations at all, and so we're just sort of going full steam ahead, with I think the blessing of our own government, just to go and build as many data centers as humanly possible right now. So I think that's one of the big.
This is like innovation first versus regulation first approach.
So I was actually speaking at, 2.5 years ago? I was in Paris speaking to French government and business officials, and I thought what was very interesting is somebody came up to me after. This was during the French pension crisis, by the way, to give it a timestamp and sort of the height of thinking there. For some reason, they kept asking me questions about pensions. I don't understand pensions. But one person said something that stuck to me. He said the EU regulates and the US innovates. I thought that was a really sad thing to say, actually, because I feel like there's a lot of really smart engineers and I think creative talent in the EU and in Europe in general. And it feels like if the contribution to the world is regulation, I would hope that that Europe could do more, because there's, like I said, I think pound for pound, some of the best engineers I've seen are in Europe, not the US. So, but for whatever reason, it feels like that talent is, they're going to America right now is what's happening to go work in, Silicon Valley. If you go to Silicon Valley right now, who's been to Silicon Valley or the Bay Area before? It's a different universe. I would say, even though, and I go there all the time, it feels like, if you want to feel like you're in the future, you go to a place like that. I would urge all of you to go, spend a week there. But what's happening there is AI, the discussions in AI are about 5 years ahead of where anything else is right now. I would say maybe except in China. But everyone's working on the latest thing. They're building things that are probably 3 to 5 years out. And that's just normal. So.
We mentioned briefly last night, but as we are in fintech, so this is maybe purely general we are speaking about, but when it's fintech about, we mentioned this innovation first approach and autonomous agentic AI, creating banking accounts, and how AI is impacting financial innovation currently in USA. Do you see that as a current state, or it is still evolving in terms of real use cases and everything?
Yeah, it's interesting, and again, I'm not fintech, so yeah. I barely understand your world. But last night at dinner, we were actually looking, because I think somebody was talking about whether AI agents were able to create bank accounts in the U.S., and in fact, there is somebody already did that. So we have so AI agents can autonomously go and create bank accounts, which I thought was quite fascinating. Google just announced its new agent-to-agent payment protocol. So you can have AI agents conduct commerce on your behalf, which I thought was cool, also a bit frightening, but we'll all be comfortable with that in about 5 years, I think. What was interesting too, as an anecdote, right? So I was talking to an engineer at a fintech company in the US from the Bay Area, from one of the former PayPal founders. So this particular company, this will give you an idea of how we do things in America. It's run really fast, build something. You're probably going to incur lots of technical debt, lots of make a gigantic mess behind you. This engineer described, so they went public. They're obviously worth tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever. Very big company. If I named them, you would know who it is. But he described his job as putting bubble wrap and duct tape over their systems because they do not have time to go back and fix anything. That's how fast they move.
Never happening in Europe, I think, that way, but let's see.
Yeah, but that's...
Yeah, so if we go local, so for a small market like Montenegro, and then what do you see are main prerequisites for implementing AI, for going the direction, having in mind these all regulations and strict rules?
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know much about Montenegro, obviously. I've been here for less than a
EU.
few days. But
we are in EU in 2 years, so let's say.
It's, it's hard to generalize, but like I said in my quick keynote here, everyone has the same tools right now, the same basic tools at least. You all have access to the same model providers, with some caveats, obviously. Regulatory, I think it's a bit different what you have access to versus what I have access to in America. I don't think you have as much. But the point is, you have access to the same technology that every other company has right now. I think this is the big difference between today's world and yesterday's world. Today, you have access to the cutting-edge foundation models that are out. You have access to cutting-edge open source models that are out. There's no reason why you shouldn't be looking at this at all. So I'd say that, again, everyone is at the same starting line. Everyone, basically, a pile of people, some were ahead, some were not. You're all back at the starting line.
Everything reset, so...
It reset.
Yeah.
And you all were given the ability to run really fast all of a sudden, too. So it's not like you're the old person. That's a choice. You can choose to go back to the starting line and do the same things that you've been doing for decades. I don't think this is a plan going forward. I think you're going to see change happening at a rate that nobody in this room is comfortable with at all. And the only advice I have is to be part of that change and accept it. If you want to go slow and you want to wait and you want to be conservative, I think that's a huge, huge risk. I think it's a massive risk. you're going to be eaten alive by somebody who's moving faster.
I think Milos mentioned actually that having these old business processes in place and just putting on top digitalization and then AI agents is not really the right way to go. So definitely redefining businesses from ground up.
Yeah.
Having this simplification in mind all the time, and then let's see what will be part of our wallets when AI.
ChatGPT, what do you suggest for Europe in terms of businesses that want to modernize with AI?
Well, I'd say Europe actually has the unique opportunity to lean into what I might call a balanced modernization approach. You've got a foundation of strong engineering talent, and at the same time, a regulatory environment that values ethical AI and privacy. So it's not just about moving fast for the sake of speed, it's about innovating thoughtfully. My suggestion would be for European businesses to embrace AI in a way that leverages that unique positioning. For instance, start by modernizing the core business processes with AI tools that respect the EU's ethical frameworks. Think about how you can use AI for smarter, more efficient customer service, or for automating certain internal workflows that free up your teams.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes, actually we were considering that we just put 2 laptops here and program it, put our memory, my memory, Joe's memory, and then they can do something out of it. But thank you for this, Joe.
Yep.
So you often say that AI is, and you mentioned it in your keynote as well, that AI is only as strong as its data is. So which AI use cases are absolutely impossible without strong data foundations?
Anything where you need to obviously query and utilize your existing data, right? But who feels their data in their companies is in awesome shape right now, that you just have the best data ever? Right, exactly. And so this is going to be the challenge that everybody faces is when you use ChatGPT normally, right? That's a conversation, that's you talking to something that queries the internet. But when it's built on your data, this becomes different. And so you have actually 2 problems now. You have the data, which is actually difficult to query with large language models still. I can get into the technical reasons, but we have 3 minutes. So the data is hard to query. Part of that is because the underlying data models for databases are just really bad, and nobody's paid much attention to them. And so that's going to be a huge problem. But the second one is when you have AI agents running around your systems, this is also an interesting challenge because none of your systems are made for agents. So if you think of the average person who will query a database maybe once, twice, you will have thousands of agents all creating different variations of types of queries. It could be a search query, a limit type query, or they might be who knows, right? Different types of queries for different types of use cases. Your database has no way of optimizing for the types of queries that it's receiving right now from an agent. Nor is it able to stand the pressure of this much activity. So this is something you're going to have to think about as well, is there is not any company right now that has an agent-first architecture. This does not exist. So you need to start thinking about the semantic overlays of your data, right? You need to start thinking in terms of how do we connect this together? Because it's not just rows and columns right now. You have to start thinking in terms of graphs and words and semantics and tokens and obviously agent queries per second now. This is an entirely new workflow that's entering very quickly. And I can see this being a huge issue. You already started to see it when enterprises are trying to adopt agents and AI. The 2 big challenges, organization is obviously the biggest one. You're trying to fit these things onto old processes and ways of doing things. I think that's a mistake. You should reimagine how you're going to work in an agent-first world. But the other one's the architectures, especially when you're talking legacy architectures. They are not made for this. I mean, these architectures are barely made for 2025 for regular human use, let alone machines. And so this is going to be a massive, massive opportunity for you, actually.
Risk and opportunity. That's come together.
I think you're looking at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in several fronts. in terms of infrastructure, data, processes, everything, reimagining your company. Again, my advice is don't sit and wait. That's the thing when I said earlier, we're all staring into the void, wondering what's on the other side. Go make it happen. Go create it. Don't wait. What are you waiting for? You don't need permission. Well, you kind of do if you're in finance. But the people who I think are much more attuned to this and native are going to win. Yep.
Yeah, so we have to wrap it up soon.
Yeah, 5 more questions. It's great.
Yeah, so this is your first book, which is really fundamental of fundamentals.
Yep.
For data engineering. You are currently working on mixed modeling arts.
Yeah.
Which is probably, this talk all will be part of it.
Yeah,
it
for
will
data.
be out next year probably.
Yep.
Beginning of the next year.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah, so you also briefly suggested to the leadership here present which approach and mindset to have.
Yeah.
For having this AI-ready culture. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
For connecting this global vision to local opportunities.
Of course, thank you very much for having me. I love your country, it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you to our audience, for the most faithful ones, for staying until the end and for listening and hearing this last bit we prepared for you. We hoped you enjoyed it. This is the end of our program for today. We expect to see you tonight. And we will also see you tomorrow. I hope you're going to be here tomorrow at 10. Regarding information for tonight, we will sign and we will dance inside the beautiful ambience of Naval Heritage Collection Museum here in Porto, Montenegro, not too far from here. We invite you to join the special INFINTECH cocktail co-hosted by our partner Peyton. See you there, and thank you once again for today, and thank you for being such kind guests. Jedino nisam spomenula ovo. Vi.